happy Wednesday. We're on Wednesday today. Happy Wednesday, guys. If you are on here, hit that like button, tag anybody on this discussion, share it with someone that you think may find it interesting. Thank you for joining. Shout out to you, Demetrius, for the first comment, the love and support. Actually, no, I see a few other comments here. But shout out for being here. It's always good to see you guys. Again, as you guys are hopping in here, be sure to hit that like button. Also, if you would like to show support to the show, please do so. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo today. As always, I will be sure to acknowledge and read all super chats and support your favorite content creators. You guys know you are best to try to bring content that's engaging, informative, thought-provoking, but we rely upon you guys to keep this stuff going. So support your favorite content creators, Cash App, Venmo, Super Chat, choose your preference. So I'm excited about today's topic. This should be interesting. Now, the title, Tarot Card Terrorism, I know that's probably a little bit extreme, but I really wanted to unpack this because, so I could say I've noticed a trend of, a lot more women really embracing tarot cards or just embracing alternative spirituality in general. And I have been, silently watching behind the scenes over the last few months just to try to get a sense of what's going on, what's causing this trend, what are women doing, things of that nature. And there have been a few reoccurring themes that I have noticed that I thought was worth addressing, especially in regards to Black women, because Black women, I think by and large, have been the ones documented to really be embracing just not only tarot cards, but just alternative spirituality in general. And while, I understand and support people going on their spiritual journey, like I feel like people need to have the freedom to try to figure out what is really true to them on this journey. And in some of these different alternative spiritual forms, I've noticed honestly, some rhetoric and some ideas that I think are quite toxic. And that's exactly what I want to talk about, because I think if we couch some of these ideas under spirituality, some of these toxic ideas under spirituality, then it can be quite detrimental. And I've also noticed a trend of women, turning away from the church, right? Turning away from Christianity, different things, running to tarot cards, running to alternative spirituality. And when you start to unpack why, and when you start to unpack some of the different reasons these women were disillusioned with the church, a lot of it is based upon false premise. So I want to unpack that again in this today's discussion, because I do think it's really important. It is happening. It'll probably continue to happen. So I think it's at the very least important to have this information out here and have a conversation. So again, guys, if you're here, hit that like button, support the show. And what I'm going to do, there's a few things that I want to do. So the first video it's a video entitled Leaving Jesus. I came across this again a few months back, and I want to just kind of wait for the right time. And it's about a 10-minute video or so of different Black women talking about why they specifically left the church and have turned to tarot card reading and essentially different occult practices, and why they're happy being a witch. And so I'm going to review that because there's a lot to unpack on that one. And then secondly, if we have enough time, there's another video that I think is really, really worth unpacking. It's from another, I think she's a spiritualist. She's into, she says she's into African spirituality, but she has this entire breakdown on why the Black community is the way that it is. And it's just kind of, to me, it is kind of crazy. So I think it's better for me to play it for you guys to get a chance, you guys to kind of get a sense of what's going on. So I'm going to bring this up. Witchcraft, yes, absolutely. You said call it terrorism. No, legitimately, some of the stuff I've heard on the surface, I'm not going to say that a person playing with tarot cards is akin to like actual terrorism. I'm not saying that, but legitimately, some of the different ideas and some of the different things I've been seeing promoted at best, or very least, are spiritual terrorism. So we'll get into it, and I'll explain to you guys why. Again, if you're here, hit that like button and be sure to show support to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo today. And I'm going to bring up the first audio. Now you guys know how the whole copyright thing goes. If sometimes if you guys play videos of different channels, they will give you copyright strikes. So just to avoid all of that, I'm just gonna have screenshots of the videos and the names of them, so you guys can go check it out yourself if you want to, and then I will let you guys hear the audio. So let me do this real quick. Let me do this, and then we're gonna get started with our first thing. Okay. Okay. Oops, where to go? Okay. yeah, I heard white images on most of these cards. Yeah. And I mean, we'll get into this a little bit more, but just total side note, it is interesting to me that, a lot of Black women who are turning to tarot cards, they're using it under the guise of wanting to connect with their ancestors and wanting to connect to their traditional African roots. Just to be clear, tarot cards did not come from Africa. At least in any research understanding that I know, I don't see any historical evidence that tarot cards came from Africa, or that was even a part of the more traditional spiritual practices. Now, if I'm wrong, if you guys have sources, please let me know. But from my understanding, tarot cards came from like Europe. So it's interesting to me that in an effort to return to more African or more traditional practices, or essentially to try to understand your cultural roots, it's interesting that you would engage in a practice that actually didn't come from Africa. So it's just a total side note. Okay, I think, is it this one? Okay. So this is the first one. Like I said, this is the first video. It's about a 10 minute or so video. I'm going to try to speed it up a bit so we can kind of get through it. But it's literally called Leaving Jesus. And what it is, this was actually a video created by Vice. And it's called Why Some Black Women Are Turning to Witchcraft. So we're going to unpack this. They're going to break down not only why they left the church or whatever, but why they're turning to witchcraft and what it means to them. I think there's a lot to cover off here. Again, guys, be sure to show support to that show. Cash App, Venmo, Share Day. For those of you who do support the show, I will be sure to acknowledge and read your super chats, your Cash Apps, all of that jazz. Shout out to you, Demetrius, again for the for starting this off right. Since for the video fun, I appreciate you. You are such a loyal supporter. It's always good to have you here. Okay, so let's. So I'm going to play this, you guys. If you have any issues with the audio, let me know. This is interactive. We're having a conversation here. Sometimes my audio works, sometimes it's not. So if it's like echoey or anything like that, please let me know. Okay, let me do this. So this is the first one. It's literally called Leaving Jesus, Why Some Black Women Are Turning to Witchcraft. This was created by Vice Life. It has over almost like 800,000 views. Okay. Let me put this down to, okay.
Honestly believe Jesus was one of the most toxic relationships I've ever had in the entirety of my life. You shouldn't keep your magic in the dark. Like, this is your soul. You need to share it to the world. Let it rain on me now. So be it. So it is. I was a super Christian. I was raised in the church. I was a worship leader. I'm like singing all over the place and pouring over here and crying out to God.
Okay, let me just start there. I see Vice love making Black folks look crazy. I'm not as familiar with Vice. I'm not as familiar, so I can't necessarily speak to what they do. But I will say the few videos that I have seen from Vice have been, I guess if you think about it, yeah, they're not necessarily shining the best light on whatever culture. So I'll have to keep that in mind. But okay, so the first thing that she said, I was a super Christian. This is something that I hear a lot from different people who were disillusioned from the church, women or whatever who were disillusioned from the church, and they just turn away. They say, I'm a super Christian. And then they go off and list all the different things they were involved in. And here, right there to me already is the fundamental issue. You being involved in church settings, singing in the choir, going to Bible study every other day does not make you a Christian. That does not mean that you were necessarily saved, right? Or that you actually had that spiritual transformation. Those are just things that you do. And I think a lot of times, many women, many people in general who they go to church, they are told that being a Christian or being a godly person is doing all these activities. And that was never what the gospel is about. So a woman coming and saying, oh, I went to church every single day, but my life still sucked, so God isn't real. It's like, well, yeah, you you going to church never made you a Christian. There are evil people that go to church all the time. There are straight up demonic people or whatever that be in church all the time. So you, just because you walk into a building and sit there for a couple of hours out of the day does not make you spiritual. So I wanted to say that because I think this is a false premise all the time that leaves people being disillusioned. They think, okay, the more I serve, the more I do, okay, then God owes me back. And it's like, nah, it doesn't work like that. That's not anything. If you really read or understand the gospel and the message of the gospel, it's not about that at all. So I wanted to clarify that. She said she's a super Christian and she goes and names off all the different things that she did. And I think people who grow up in the church or who were told that Christianity is you doing these particular rituals to get a result, that is what leads to disillusionment out the gate. So yeah, see, no such thing as a super Christian. Right. Okay, so let me continue. That was the first one to me, was like,
How many times have I prayed to Jesus to show up for things that were actually needed and he didn't show up?
Melissa Whetstone grew up as a preacher's kid, but 12 years ago, she left the church. She says the community felt toxic and she didn't feel a personal connection to Jesus.
All right.
Listen, that's real, y'all. And I will say that's real. I've been in churches that were toxic. I've been in spiritual communities where it's like people are like really fake, super fake. Sometimes they backbite. Sometimes it's like they present one image when they're in church service and then they leave the building and then they act totally different. Sometimes they act worse than people who don't even say that they, know God. Like, so that is completely real. Yes, there are, I can attest to being in situations where people are just so fake and phony. And how, yeah, in that environment, in that toxic environment, yeah, it can be totally difficult to have any kind of spiritual connection because it's a whole facade. So like I said, that's real. That is absolutely real. I say religion had me questioning God, spirituality had me confirming God. Yes. I mean, if you guys even read the biblical, like the narrative, you understand that when Jesus, when he was, going around talking to some of the different religious leaders, he was the hardest and he was the most critical of these religious leaders of that time. So again, just because you go to a church don't necessarily mean that you are following the way. Let's just keep that clear.
I need the frankincense and myrrh is here.
She eventually discovered Lukumi, a religion that was brought to Cuba by enslaved West Africans.
It's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. It's a beautiful community spirit. You're learning and growing with other people. So I really love it.
Black folks have left the church in higher numbers over the last decade than ever before, and younger generations are even less likely to affiliate with the church. But many young people are still seeking spirituality, and some are reviving traditions from Africa and the Caribbean through practices that connect them with their ancestors.
This is my bovada, or my altar. A few glasses of water. That's just for my specific ancestors who watch and look over me. I have liquor that my uncle likes. Gotta make sure he still get little on the side. I feed them. I talk to them. I spend time with them. Like, this is my place to be.
So can you talk about some of the differences in what you study now to what your relationship was with Christianity then? What are you getting out of Lukumi?
I get an answer.
So let me. I want to say this because she is right that you have more people in general. I'm not going to say this is just Black folks because I think that would be a mischaracterization. There are more people in general who are leading church, organized religion, largely due to a lot of corruption that you've seen. I mean, how many different documentaries have I seen now of different pedophilia and stuff that's happened within like the Catholic Church? And that thing came out, I think, a few months ago of the AME that scammed people. I mean, I'm not saying it's everybody, but it was something in the AME where there are some pastors who, like, I think ran off with like millions of dollars. So case in point, you see corruption happening across all these different spiritual institutions, the Mormon church, like just all around them. So people looking at this, they're just like, I want nothing to do with this. Also, there has to be, this is a whole separate conversation, but there has to be an honest reckoning with how in the West and in America, how Christianity has been used as a tool of as oppression. Now, notice, I'm not saying like the true Christianity or the true gospel, but the church, right? Churchianity, religion has been used as a tool to oppress Black and brown people. And so it's like, without that reckoning and without that honest conversation, you know, people will go to church. Black women may go to church, Black men may go to church. People who are looking for an authentic experience, who want to feel culturally connected and also have a real connection to God, they feel like they're not getting that sometimes in the church because of the different corruption, because sometimes of going to churches and still seeing racist rhetoric, because of going to churches and seeing, you know, only white representation of biblical characters that weren't white. Like all these different things sometimes really are making people feel disillusioned, right? And then on top of that, you go and you connect with somebody, you try to connect with somebody in the church, and maybe they do something wrong, or maybe they lie on you, or you find out pastor ran off with a deacon from the church, or you found out pastor actually was secretly gay, although he was preaching against homosexuality every 15 seconds. Like, this is the experience of so many different people. And this is why I think you see a lot. You do see not just Black folks, let's keep it clear. You see people of all spectrums, races, ethnicities running away from the church because they're like, this isn't working for me. This is fake. I have real issues in my life. I don't have the time or the space to go sit on a pew, have somebody lie to me for an hour or two, have a fake relationship, and my life sucks. And so this is, like I said, this is a real issue, and that's why it's like, I don't want to undermine the experience of these women and say, oh, it's just fake or it's just bad. Because it's like, no, that's real. I experienced that in certain settings. But I also want to address some of the different lies that I think lead to disillusionment. Again, I started off by saying, if anybody told you that Christianity was you just attending church, the more, like I said, the more services you attend, the more Bible studies you attend, the more offerings you attend, the more choirs you sing in. If anybody told you that was you being a super Christian or that was you being godly, false premise. That had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Again, guys, if you are here, you said, I've watched this Shay. Listen to the young lady. She sounds like she is breaking psychologically. That bingo, that happens. I think there are a lot of people who are breaking psychologically and they're turning to all kind of different stuff to get a real result. So yeah, let me see. Let me go back. And good to see you, Mr. Z. It's always good to see you in the building. You guys, again, if you're here, hit that like button. And if you would like, and please show support to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay. Support your favorite content creators, people. We depend upon you guys to keep this thing going. Okay, let me see. Let me try this again. Okay, so I see Shay. Yeah, there are a couple videos that speak about BLAC. Yeah, so to be clear, I have research, and again, I don't pretend to be a expert on the turning to voodoo and African spirituality, but stay tuned. I'm going to break that down a little bit later on in this video. And yes, this is precisely why we're having this conversation, but let me continue because there's more that they cover off here.
There's my prayers. That I tell people that all the time. Like when they're like, "What's the difference?" I'm like, because my prayers are answered. Like that's one. When I come to my altar and I pray to my ancestors and I actually take my time to cry out, not only do I get responses, I get physical manifestations and answers.
You were born into a household where your dad was a pastor?
Yes.
How is that relationship with him now, and how did your family react?
I'm the black sheep of my family. I love my family to death. They love me, but we don't see eye to eye. They're like, girl, you're going to hell, you're going to burn. And I'm like,
Okay, y'all. So I don't know if y'all heard that, but she basically said, okay, so what's the difference between what she had before versus what is going on now? And she says, I get answers to my prayers. She's like, when I talk to my ancestors, not only do I get answers, I get spiritual manifestations. So I want to hang out in this topic for a little bit, and we're going to see this a little bit later on, but something that I've noticed early that I've noticed with this, I guess, change to occult practices, embracing of witchcraft, embracing of rituals, is the desire for women to get answers for their life. Again, is the desire for women to get answers for their life. All those things are valid. But as someone myself who has, been in church my entire life, still is involved with different ministries, things of that nature. It's like my prayers get answered. Physical manifestations, if you want to talk about spiritual manifestations, that absolutely, I have seen that. I've experienced that in church settings, outside of church settings, prayer groups, all of that stuff is real. But here's what I want to say again, going back to why I think certain women get in the church, they can get Christian churches, and then they get disillusioned. If you are following God because you want a specific answer or you want specific things, if you decide to become a Christian because you think God is going to give you A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, do not become a Christian. Don't. If you think Christianity or following God or doing all these different things is about you achieving whatever result you yourself want in your life, do not become a Christian. Do not become a Christ follower, because that goes completely against the gospel. I mean, the gospel literally is like, okay, if you want to be a follower of me, you must deny yourself, take up your cross and then follow me. There's scriptures that talk about, okay, leaving your carnal desires and seeking a higher will, seeking the will of God, which is higher than your immediate desire. So what that may mean is you may be a woman and you desire, okay, let's say, hey, look, I want to get this particular job. You may seek God's higher one. He says, no, I don't want you to have this big career. Actually, you're called to be a housewife, or actually you're called to go serve here. So it's like the foundation of the gospel is about you surrendering your life and your will to a power greater than yourself. But what sometimes women are told, and that is not just women, just people are told in general, is that if I do these particular things for God, then God owes me back. Then when you do those things and then those results don't happen in your life, then it's God's fault, or this thing doesn't work. And it's like, no, that's a false premise. Do not be a follower of the way if you think you don't get what you want. Actually, if you listen to the words of the Messiah, right, he literally is like, count the cost. He tells people, don't follow me until you have counted the cost. When he was talking to the different, when he was going and preaching and talking to these different crowds, he was speaking in parables, and he was saying things that would confuse people, because he was like, I don't want you guys following me out of popularity. I only want you following me if these teachings resonate with you. So when she was like, I get answers to my prayers, I'm thinking, did somebody tell her early on that if she did these things, then God was going to bless her in all these different ways? Or did they tell her that, okay, if you want to be a follower of the way, you're going to actually have to surrender your will? And that might mean that there are things that you may immediately want that you have to give up, but what you're surrendering, right, or what you're giving up, it's you're gaining something more. So, but I'm like, but again, like I said, these are the conversations that I think sometimes get missed. People are told, I'm gonna just do this. God owes me. And it's like, God don't owe you nothing. You surrender your life for a greater cause. And that to me is a lot different than I'm gonna pray and then God owes me an answer. Just my thoughts. Anyway, shout out to you, Game Dreamer 5 with the 5 on the super sticker. I appreciate you. Shout out to you. What's going on? Malevolent Elephant. All you guys in the building, if you hear, hit that like button. Also, if you would like to show support to the show, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo Shade. Support your favorite content creators. As always, I will be sure to acknowledge our super chats. And we are talking about tarot card terrorism now. Right now, I am reviewing a video called Leaving Jesus, where this basically women are talking about why they left the Christian faith to turn to alternative spirituality. As someone myself who's a Christ follower, I thought it was appropriate for me to break down why I think there are certain misconceptions that lead women to being disillusioned. And then we're going to follow those up from another video from an African spiritualist who talks about why Black people are in the state that they are now. And it's very she has something very interesting to say about Black men, but we'll cover that off later. Okay, so we're almost done with this. I think we're like halfway through with this particular breakdown, and then we're going to the second video.
I'm pretty sure we will be burning together.
Ironically, it is often because of that kind of religious conservatism that people move out.
Dr. Yvonne Sherrod studies African and indigenous religions.
A lot of these religions came to the United States after the Middle Passage, after the period of slavery. Like other immigrants, they bring their cultures and their religions. But because when they come to the United States, they're often met with hostility, they tended to be secretive.
Can you talk about the role that social media has played? Because especially if we're talking about the younger generation, they might not be as dedicated to being ordained and, you know, kind of doing all these rituals. But if I go up and down my timeline, now everybody's a witch. Everybody's burning sage.
Prior to the turn of the 20th century, they utilized the internet or whatever media was available in order to be spiritual entrepreneurs. They would sell goods and services. They would treat clients and so forth. With the coming of the digital age, and in particular social media, I really feel like younger people are grabbing on to some of the digital trends where they can sort of brand themselves as practitioners. It's a kind of identity to be a part of this. So the internet and social media has certainly helped to popularize it. But I really do feel strongly that this is something of a movement in that young Black people, they are reaching back, they are recovering that which is ancestral, but they're doing it in their own way.
So, you know, and like I said, this really is a whole separate topic. Basically what they're saying is, one, this is becoming a trend. So it's kind of like a cool, trendy thing now to go online and see, you know, different Black women doing tarot card, or just women in general. I don't want to say it's Black women, although we're focusing on that, but just seeing, you know, people turn to different spirituality. It's a trend. It's a trendy, it's a fun thing to do. Now, on top of that, for Black women, they are looking to kind of have a place to connect, maybe culturally, to something with something to them that seems more authentic. And again, this goes back to what I was saying before, where it's like there has to be a reckoning with the way that racism has been used in the Christian church to try to oppress people, and how the Black and African presence has been completely removed from the Bible. Because if there is a solid understanding of like just the Bible period, like historically, all of that, it's like there should be no reason for a person of Black African descent to feel disconnected culturally from the Bible. I mean, there's African presence and influence all throughout the Bible. I mean, look, the New Testament itself was found in Africa, written on papyri. It was written in Greek, but it was written in Africa under colonial rule. So it's like, if you really understand just the historicity and all those things behind the Bible, there should never be a reason for any Black person to feel that Christianity is a colonizer's religion. It's actually not. I mean, you had slaves who were brought over to Americas who were already practicing Christianity. It was in their own cultural context, but they are already followers of the way. So, like I said, but these are the kinds of conversations that are not necessarily so mainstream, and they're not so popularized. And like I said, if you do get into churches that are very much still practicing and promoting white supremacy in church, it's one reason that I think you'll find Black women being like, I want nothing to do with this. So, like I said, I think some of these concerns are valid, but I think some of the conclusions that women are coming to, or the people are coming to, are based upon false premises. So anyways, guys, if you're here, hit that like button. Let me continue this. Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to light the candles? Should we do that? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to actually carve my sigils in the candle this here.
Majori is a 29-year-old fashion designer living in New York who practices witchcraft. She casts spells with a coven of other young witches.
We're making money jars. So
can I just say this too? Being a witch, I mean, this whole idea that like that our ancestors back in Africa, Black women's ancestors back in Africa, were just all walking around being witches is actually like based upon white supremacy. Like that's, you actually even today talk to different people from the continent or who are deeply connected to their spiritual practices. Like witchcraft is not, that's not like an active, well-respected practice. It's very much seen as like, no, that's what people over there do, but that's not. People weren't just like going around calling themselves witches and was like cool or accepted. I mean, I literally saw a documentary a few weeks ago. Now, granted, this was in India, but case in point, it was like how people who were called witches were like demonized and shunned. This actually happens in Africa. So the idea that, okay, for me to return to my ancestral religion is for me to be a witch is like, no, that's actually not true. Just side note. Total side note. I think that's a mischaracterization.
We're adding different herbs that manifest prosperity, money, success, I feel like, Hollywood and like in the movies, they kind of like gave this idea that, magic was scary. And it's like, is it scary? It's not.
Would you consider this your religion as opposed to being Catholic?
Yes, definitely. Divination is my main form of like spiritual practice, but being Catholic too, it still like resonates and there's like some roots in there. I feel like Catholicism is extremely witchy. I mean, drinking the blood of Christ, I mean, that whole sacrament, that's a ritual. Like it is witchcraft. They just don't want to call it that. I just feel like we kind of need to get rid of that taboo mentality of like, this is something that is like evil or, harmful, because it's not at all. It's the complete opposite of that.
Do you feel like in the last 5 to 10 years or so that is happening?
Because of social media, there's a huge surge of giving a light to the divination community and like witchcraft and everything. And people are now being more vocal about their practice and being more comfortable expressing themselves and showing their craft. And I think that's very beautiful. This is Ultra Magica, or crystals coming out of the broom closet. So I want
you guys to notice something real quick. I'm going to continue to, we're almost done with this one, but I want you to notice how as the economy is changing, Black women are getting evicted. Relationships are tanking. Less people are getting married. There's less support economically. People are stressed and anxiety. It's interesting how now you see women turning to different spirituality that essentially makes them feel as if they are in control. Earlier when she was talking, she mentioned something about creating different potions that bring, prosperity and goodwill and merit and all these different things. And so they're basically doing these different rituals as a way to try to combat probably the things that they're, negative things that they're maybe experiencing in day-to-day life. And I imagine a lot of women are doing this as a way to cope and as a way to try to manage the stress of everyday life. And that's the thing about it. And I'm like, what's supposed to happen, being a Christ follower, all those different things, that's supposed to impact my everyday life. And if your walk with God, if your spirituality isn't actually like impacting your day-to-day life, the decisions you make, all the different things that you do, then it's like, yeah, there is a disconnect. And there is probably something going wrong. But it's just interesting to me how, to me, this seems like a grasp of women basically trying to gain control in areas where they feel out of control, but doing it outside of structure, doing it outside of accountability, doing it outside of really anything that may require them to be self-reflective. But more to come on that. Let me continue with this one.
The majority, the punk priestess here in the flesh.
Okay,
for many young spiritualists, the online community has replaced the one they might have had at church, but without the strict mandates that come with other religions.
I'm not the type of witch that likes to subscribe to rules. I just do whatever it is I please. If it doesn't fit the spell, I will improvise. It is what it is.
Y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? I am not the kind of witch who ascribes to any rules. Let me just turn that back just one little second. Did y'all hear that? I don't like to ascribe to rules. Let's replay.
But without the strict mandates that come with other religions.
I'm not the type of witch that likes to subscribe to rules. I just do whatever it is I please. If it doesn't fit the spell, I will improvise. It is what it is. I feel like the rules, it's like oppressive. We need to have, the system. You have to be a certified tarot reader. And so I want to dismantle and get rid of that, because that's not what healership really is.
So dismantle all rules. Dismantle all rules. Dismantle them. Remove all standards. Remove all certifications, all qualifications. Remove it. Did y'all hear that? Am I crazy? She literally said, I am not the kind of witch that likes to ascribe to any rules. I do whatever I please, whatever feels good to me, whatever seems right. And then they go on and they say, oh, all these qualifications, all these standards, all these barriers, they're just oppressive. Did y'all hear that? So it's like we're starting to get to the root here. When we started off this video, one of the women said, I was not getting answers to my prayers, i.e., perhaps I was not getting the answers that I want. Because like I said, if you're a Christ follower, right, you may pray and say, hey, God, I want this man that's, 666, right? Six figures, 6 feet 6 inches. God, give me that man. That may be what you pray for. That may be what you want. God may say, actually, you need to humble yourself and get a good heart first. That might be God's answer, right? But you may not like that answer. You'd be like, nah, this is the answer that I want. This is the answer that I want. So because it's not the answer that you want, is it, oh, okay, well, God, he didn't speak to me. God ain't speaking. I didn't get answers to my prayers. So now I'm going to go create a love potion to get these 6'6" man, 6-pack, 6 figures, 6 inches. So that's what I'm saying. We start off by, I didn't get answers to my prayers. Therefore, I'm going to go do tarot, or I'm going to go do whatever potions that don't require rules, that do not require potions, or no, that don't require qualifications, that don't require any accountability. And I'm going to now come up with some form of ancestral, divine potion, ointment, whatever, to get what I want. That actually is the definition of witchcraft. It's manipulation. But it's crazy to me because it's like they're literally like, I don't like ascribing to rules. I don't like ascribing to boundaries. I don't like ascribing to all of these man-made, requirements. I don't like them. And which is fair. I'm like, okay, if you don't like doing that, then yeah, you probably shouldn't be a Christ follower, because there are some things that are pretty clear. But if that is the case, then it can also be that, okay, well, God doesn't work, or all these things are false. It can't be that, because it's like, if you don't want to have rules, if you don't want to have boundaries, if you don't want to have standards, then there's going to be certain repercussions for that. You know what I mean? I see, shout out to Coach Keith. It says people are rejecting Christianity because they want to be their own God. Nothing new under the sun. Read the book of Judges. Yeah, no, they were telling themselves there. I thought that was crazy. Shout out to you, Walt Quill. Ooh, it says, Walt Quill, it says, I work in fraud, and we've had a few false claims from women complaining about not getting the right reading from a what? You're kidding. What? I work in fraud, and we've had a few false claims from women complaining about not getting. You are kidding. Yeah, that's new. And you know what? If this trend continues, you're going to see more women figure out that these love potions or whatever isn't getting to the root problem. Because here's the thing. If the root problem is you, wherever you go, there you are. So whether you are in the church and on the pew, or whether you decide to leave the pew or to leave a religious organization, leave Jesus, or which is the name of this documentary, and take up some love potion. If you were the problem, you are still the problem. It doesn't matter where you go, and you have to deal with that. Shout out to Young East. It says Autumn are witches. Thank you, Young East, for the 2 on the super chat. Okay, so let me finish this because I want to move on to the next one, y'all. Believe it or not, the next thing I'm about to play for y'all after this is even more cray to me. But yes, let me continue this one.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. You don't have to subscribe to these rules because, like, who's telling you these things? It's, again, like, have your own independent thought. That is what divination is.
Have your own. So they heard it. Have your own independent thought. That is what divination is. Y'all heard that. Okay.
So today we're in Southfield, Michigan for the Detroit Voodoo Festival, and dozens of spiritualists from around the country have come together. They all practice something different under the African traditional religious practices, but this is significant because 20, 30 years ago, these things were done in secret. So now they're gathering here at this hotel behind me for classes, workshops, there's vendors, and they're all just here to celebrate this new birth of spirituality.
I want to thank everybody for coming to the first annual Detroit Voodoo Festival. And first up, we have a wonderful, powerful priestess, someone who really has a working grasp of the spirit, a working grasp of the traditions, a working grasp of how to facilitate and create change in your life. So please, if you would, welcome my sister, a powerful priestess, Ms. Ifa.
Hi, y'all beautiful people. How are y'all? First of all, thank you.
Ifa Abeyo is Melissa's spiritual mentor in the Lukumi faith.
The Bible is the biggest spell book known to man. We just don't know how to use it.
Ifa was initiated into Lukumi 4 years ago, but has been practicing divination through tarot card readings since the 90s. So what was that experience like 20, 30 years ago, reading tarot cards?
In New Orleans and stuff, they call you root people, root workers, conjure people, and things like that. So it was taboo. It wasn't as it is now. That was a no-no. You would come after church and the lights are out. You would come at night and, you know, get your reading or whatever work you need done. But it wasn't out like now. You would go in New York in Central Park. You got a table full of everybody reading.
20, 30 years ago when you were doing tarot and things in secret, could you imagine that in 2021 you'd be at a Detroit Voodoo Festival teaching a class?
Now, I will say this. The person that started to do this and take it out on the road, a lot of spiritual people were against it. They were like, no, it's going to bring a lot of negative. It's going to make spiritual people look horrible. But we still did it because people now have a hunger.
How do you see these traditions and these religions evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
I see that more and more people who study this are seeing the health benefits, the mental health benefits, the healing benefits of religion and spirituality. It may not be conventional. It may not be what your parents did, but it's really, this is something that I think is going to grow, and it might be more broadly accepted because it works.
Let us be sun-drenched and beaming, anointed, let it rain on me now. So be it, so it is. And so it is.
Okay, so I mean, y'all, that was a quick. Wait, no. I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know this one, Mrs. Oh, or maybe you did. I think it came up. I don't know. Maybe you did. I'm like, do you know I'm about to play with what's her name? We'll see. But okay, so real quick, basically, make a long story short, these women aren't getting the results that they want, being Christians or being in the church, right? So they turn to witchcraft as a way to try to basically experience more control and to have the results that they think that they want. They essentially admitted to that. One woman says, I get answers to my prayers. Another one says, look, I ain't got to worry about all these rules. I can do whatever it is that I please, and I can have my own free thought. So these are women essentially going their own way. A couple of things out the gate, like I said, that I see as problematic with this is the reason that a lot of these women left the church was already based upon a false premise. Like I said, if you aren't willing to surrender your life to Christ and follow the teachings, then you shouldn't become a Christian. Like even the Messiah himself said that. He's like, count the cost. If this isn't speaking to you, don't even try to do it, because it's better for you to be hot or cold. But if you are lukewarm, I will spew it in my mouth. That's like Revelation. So it's like either you are in it. It's not about you being perfect, but either you are in it and your heart is surrendered and you are learning to experience that eternal transformation, and you are also being accountable not only to yourself but different people and your husband, your family, pastors, whatever. Either you're going through that process of daily transformation, or you're not. But there is no lukewarm. There is no, okay, well, I'm just gonna do these different things and not have to deal with my heart issues, not have to deal with my jealousy, not have to deal with my lust, not have to deal with my desire for status, or my need to feel in control, or my misandry, or my hatred of men, or my bitterness. I don't have to deal with that. I just should go to church and God's gonna bless me. It's like, it doesn't work like that. So again, you had a lot of women, just based on what I heard, who went in Christianity thinking that God owed them something based upon their acts of service, and they didn't get the results that they want because it wasn't about surrendering their heart, and it wasn't about, okay, just from what I heard, about actually wanting to be a follower of the way. Here's the thing about it. Being a Christ follower is actually one of the most self-accountable things out there. I hear this a lot about women being accountable, and modern women having an inability to do that. If you are truly a follower of the way, you every single day have to look in the mirror and say, okay, search me, God. Like, am I being jealous? Am I being spiteful? Am I actually, am I envious of people? Am I being mean, or am I greedy? Am I, like you have to ask God to show you your heart and start to change your ways. And it could be like, okay, for example, if you're a woman and you got 4 kids, 3 baby daddies, and you're asking God to bless you, he may be like, okay, well, first you need to deal with your lust problems before you bless whatever you need to deal with your lust problems. Close your legs and deal with the reasons that you are actually continuing to open your legs to men who aren't worth anything at all. Like that, like, but I'm saying these are the kinds of actually real conversations that being a Christ follower actually will have you have, because it causes you to force yourself. And for some of us, for many of us actually, the biggest issue is ourself. Is different maybe beliefs, traumas, different behaviors, different attitudes that we have, and it makes you be accountable. That's what it's all about. But if you don't want to do that, if the idea of looking in the mirror and saying, man, like I'm actually the common denominator in all these failed relationships, man, I keep on getting evicted from all these different places, and it's not the white man's fault, or it's not the black man's fault for not, protecting me and paying for my bills, although I don't like black men. It's my fault. I don't know how to stop shopping. I keep on spending $1,000 on weaves every 2 weeks, and I only make $500 a month. I have a, retail addiction, like whatever. Like, if you can't do that, and if you won't do that, then it ain't for you. It ain't for you. And I think there is being a true Christ follower forces you to, it's supposed to force you to do that. That's what actually it really means. Now, what I'm noticing about this alternative spirituality is that there is no, from what I've perceived, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, there's no time in there where we see anybody looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, where am I wrong? What I heard was some different potions. I heard some different rituals that they do to try to bring goodwill and good fortune and positive vibes and happy feelings and more money or the man of their dreams. So I heard all these different ways for them trying to get results that they want, but I never once heard them say, this is how I am looking at my face or looking at myself in the mirror and saying where I am the problem. Like this is how I learned to be self-accountable and to be honest about the different ways I am screwing up my life. I never once heard that. So like I said, that's the first thing that I noticed about. That is the first thing that I noticed already about this, I guess, newfound spiritual practice that women are turning to try to get to their ancestral roots and try to feel more connected. Quite honestly, my humble opinion is that these are women who are they're not happy with results in their life, and they want to feel like they are more in control. They want to feel more in control. But there's unwillingness to look in the mirror and say, well, where have I messed up? Like, where have I done things that have made me feel out of control? And without, like I said, without that accountability factor, without that looking at yourself honestly and having a honest, discussion and willingness to acknowledge where you have failed and where you have done things to undermine your own success. Without the willingness to do that, you can go sit in the Christian church. You can go become a Buddhist, try to be a Buddhist monk. You can go try to be an African spiritualist. You can go try to do whatever. But if you never face that truth, then you will never fully get the results that you want. It may work initially, but long term, it's not going to give you the results that you really are desiring because you're not dealing with your truth. The gospel is all about you dealing with your truth. But if you don't want to deal with the accountability and the hard work associated with that, you can go and try to run and find whatever. But if you're never willing to face your personal truth, then you're going to see some love potions. You may get you a 666 man, and you're going to have some 666 results. Just my personal opinion. Hey, what's going on, y'all? You said Halloween is coming soon. So also, Demetrius, I was not aware of whatever love potion you were talking about. I was aware of vabbing. I talked about vabbing a few months ago, but I didn't was that like a tarot card thing? I mean, I guess it would make sense if it's supposed to be a love potion. That stuff is nasty to me. Some folks don't even be taking showers like that. So if you're not taking a shower at least once a day, you don't need to be vabbing nothing, but that's a whole nother topic. Okay. So you guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Shout out to you, Dark Power with the 5 on the Cash App. You guys definitely be sure to show some support. So I technically have another thing to review, guys. Get those cash apps and super chats up. I'm gonna go take a 3-minute break. I'm gonna go take a 3-minute break, you guys. I need some more support if we want to move on to the next review of this lovely lady and the real reason Black people were sold into slavery and experienced social suffering. So if that is what you guys want for me to talk about, if you want me to continue, be sure to hit the Cash App or super chat and show some support. I'm going to go on a 3-minute break and then we will go from there. Okay, guys. So if you guys want me to continue, be sure to hit the Cash App and show some support, or super chat and show some support. Otherwise, I will wrap this thing up. Thank you, Darren, for the 10 on the Cash App, guys. Show some support if you want me to continue moving on to the next breakdown. This one I thought you guys actually was even more damning. But y'all know time is money here. I gotta be, especially, you know, look, y'all, being married and trying to keep your family happy and everything else, that takes time, y'all. So okay. So just to let's see. Oh, you said, yeah, you said you got me. I didn't see that video. Now I'm waiting on bated breath. Yeah. This video, y'all, this video is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So I'm going to say this, you guys, I'll give it a few more minutes, and then if I get enough support, I'll continue. If not, then maybe I can do a breakdown with y'all members. Cause this one is literally, I don't even know how to say it. It's just like the conclusions and the different, the different arguments that are made to me are like the perfect reason or the perfect way to promote misandry on like all levels. Like literally after I've sit and watched that whole thing and I walked away feeling like, now if women want to psychologically have or spiritually have a reason to blame Black men, this is the reason. Like this whole thing, what she does is give a spiritual esoteric reason to blame Black men. And like when I first heard it, I was so like, this can't be real. I was so shocked that I had to like take a step back and go and listen to it later on, because I'm like, I did not hear what I just heard. But y'all, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, so, just like I said, the first video we reviewed and we looked over basically how women are turning to tarot cards because they're not happy with the results that they're getting in church. As someone who is a Christ follower myself, has been in church my entire life, has been in toxic churches, has been in healthy churches, has been in anyone in between, I will say, honestly, truly believe it works if you work it. But don't, like I said, don't become a Christian or a Christ follower if you think that your life is going to go exactly the way that you want it. That ain't what being a Christ follower is about. So women who go in under that premise, of course, will leave disillusioned. So with that, women are being upset. They're not getting the results that they want. Then they turn to tarot cards or different occult practices as a way to try to yield more control over their current life, which is out of control. And we heard that based upon some of the different things that she said. One woman said, I get answers to my prayers, I get physical manifestations. Some of the other women said, you know what, we love this because I get to do whatever I please. We don't need any of those rules or those religions or those restrictions that make us feel oppressed. I got to do whatever I want. And they were making different love potions and different spiritual sacrifices or whatever, or not even sacrifices, just different spiritual mixes as a way to try to bring good fortune, bring money, bring goodwill, maybe bring the man of their dreams. There was talk of love potion. All of this as a way to try to yield control over the life that they feel is out of control. That's what I'm getting already from that 10-minute breakdown. So like I said, take that with a grain of salt, but there's many issues with that, but I think one of the biggest ones is that if you never deal with yourself, it don't matter if you do 15 tarot card readings. If you're the issue, you're the issue. Period. And an inability to acknowledge that is not necessarily going to lead to any results. Like I said, because the truth will set you free. But if you don't acknowledge the truth and you go to some tarots and try to get responses that you want, but never address the issues that could undermine your success to get what you want, you're going to continue to have, I think, disillusionment. And somebody in there already mentioned that they heard a woman talking about witch fraud. I have never once heard of witch fraud, but I'd be curious to see if that goes up. So that's the breakdown, guys. If you're on here a little bit later on, no worries, you can go and catch the replay. And then thank you for those of you guys who have shown support. Shout out to you, Darren C, becoming a new member. I appreciate you. I have some more content for the members, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for the Byra Hammer TV with the $4.49 in the super chat. I appreciate you. What's going on, Malarkey? It's so good to see you. I see showing some support from across the pond. London, England. Help others follow suit. We got to support sisters who support our brothers. So like, subscribe, and share if you can. Thank you so much, Malarkey. You are always so consistent. I really appreciate it. And then also I want to show some support to, or shout out to Barry Hamilton for the $5.55 on the Cash App. And then I did see a 10 from Darren on the Cash App. So, okay, so we can keep this going a little bit longer, guys. He said, I'm conscious and Catholic, if that isn't a contradiction. And that's what I'm saying. That's a whole nother conversation. There does need to be, I think, a reckoning and an honest conversation about how the African influence in, the Bible and different religions, it's all across there. Like, nobody should ever go in the church and feel like they're not represented. Not at all, especially if you're Black. Because I'm like, if you really want to go there, it's like so much of the Bible is literally just has so much Black or African presence. I mean, you literally have like theologians, German theologians who talk about this. I think there's one book called The African Memory of Mark, which talks about just Mark and all the different, the Apostle Mark, right? And all the different themes. I mean, not the Apostle, the Book of Mark. Sorry, I'm going all the place. The Book of Mark, right? And just all the different African themes. So anyways, I'm going on a tangent. That's a whole nother thing. But basically, if you're Black, you shouldn't feel like the Bible doesn't apply to you. I mean, really, in general, it's supposed to apply to everybody. And it does. But especially if you're Black, because it's like so much of the Bible happened in Africa. Like, what are you talking about? Okay, next one. So this, now I want to turn your attention to this lovely lady. I want to say it's Adanula. Let me see. What is this? What's her name? It is Adanola. I probably butchered that. Lovely lady. And, I've listened to some of her, I've listened to a few of her other videos, and, she seems to be overall like a sweet person. I can't say I totally understand everything that she does, but this video was sent to me, and the reason I wanted to look over it is because this was shared by Summer Walker. If you guys are not familiar with her, I think she's like that rapper or whatever. I don't really listen to her music, but this was shared by her, this video. And what she does is kind of break down why not only why Black people were sold into slavery, why they have the different social issues that are impacting them today. She does a spiritual breakdown as to why this is happening and tries to provide essentially the spiritual remedy to what this is about. So I wanted to read this because what I walked away from that conversation was thinking that, okay, so now women have with this, if you take everything she said as true, women now have a spiritual, esoteric reason to blame Black men. And to me, that is really dangerous. And this goes back to why I was talking about terrorism. I know that that's a rather strong word, but I'm like, if we take some of these concepts and start to lean towards misandry, it really can become like a terroristic, at the very least, spiritual terroristic act if we start to use these different beliefs as a way to promote toxic femininity or toxic feminism. And that's what I want to guard against. So I'm going to just play this. You guys. This one's a little longer. So let me see if I can speed this up a bit, because this one is a lot longer, but there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, let me start. I'm trying to think where I want to start with this one. Okay, maybe I'll start like right over here. Bear with me, guys. Okay.
When we are incarnated into this lifetime. Anyway, how this relates to this.
Let me slow that down a bit. It's like kind of too fast.
This video is the Orishas are on this level of the ladder, whereas the Most High is up here, and this is us down here. In the ancient times, our ancient patriarchs were envious of the matriarchs because.
So, but basically, I don't know if you guys heard that, but basically, what she did, she's kind of describing, in her spiritual belief, I guess, the different realms and the different embodiments that are in different spiritual realms. So she's telling her belief, but what she has just said and what she's going to explain is that in whatever spirit realm or in the history or both, that the men were jealous of the women. And the men being jealous of the women, Black men being jealous of Black women, started this chaos. And this is like the foundation of whatever issues are happening today. So again, I want you guys to listen. I want you guys to listen to her break this down, because like I said, this video was shared by Summer Walker. She has like, I think almost 4 or 5 million followers, at least on Instagram. God only knows how popular she was. She was shared by her. And this woman, she's into, tarot cards, alternative spirituality, things like that. So this is what women are turning to and listening to. And I want you guys to kind of get a sense of what it is. So let me continue to play this.
Matriarchy was the rule. This was before, the cults of Amun-Ra and all of those types of things in Egypt. And the patriarchs, the fathers, the ancient fathers, they were jealous, I would say. And they overthrew matriarchy and caused a rift all in the heavens. If you've ever heard of the demiurge, where there's Tiamat, the great mother, and Yahweh overthrows Tiamat, or those types of tales that go on, where the male energy overthrows the great mother. So anyway, the great mother was offended and ordered a curse down here for overthrowing her. And I'll explain it to you in a minute. Now, if you look at this right here, you know how they say all is mine. If you're an alchemist or someone like that, or you've heard Hermetics, we always talk about all is mine, right? So here's the conscious mind, which we only use so-called 10% of it, whereas the subconscious mind is 90% of what we are. It is said that a woman, a female, we females, we are the feminine aspect of we are the subconscious manifested. So the subconscious is feminine, where the conscious mind is masculine. The subconscious mind is the hidden, where things germinate like a womb, the things that you cannot see. And the conscious is what you can see. This is what we discussed. It's the subconscious mind manifested. So all is mind, and 10% of our mind is conscious, which is male, and 90% is female. What is that telling you? If all is mind, because the creator is all things. That 90% of our mind is female. And if you are a male, a man, then if you're the most masculine man in the universe, your mind is still 90% female.
Y'all hear that? So basically she's saying, based upon the mind, women are 90% of the mind, men are 10% of the mind. This is what her breakdown is. She's saying women, the 90% of the subconscious is actually feminine, 10% is masculine. So I want you guys to understand that, because that 90 to 10% is pretty much a foundational principle that continues throughout this entire video. 90% is feminine, 90% is feminine, 10% is masculine. Just notice that. Guys, if you're on here, hit that like button, hit the like button, show support to the show, share it with someone that you think may find it interesting. Also, show some love on Cash App, super chats. I'll be shooting auto super chats. And we are talking about tarot card terrorism and why Black women are turning to witchcraft. And essentially, what is this meaning? What is this now? What does this now mean for how they perceive life, how they perceive the Black community, things of that nature? Okay, so let's continue with her her spiritual reason as to why Black folks not only were sold into slavery, but why they suffer today.
Understanding this, our body is 3/4 water. Water is considered to be a feminine sort of element, nurturing, and most of life has come out of water. So if our body is 3/4 water, the earth is about 96.5% water. That's telling you that 96.5% of earth is female in its manifestation, or feminine. So as above, so below. If we have all of this majority of energy, whether it be water, whether it be our subconscious mind, our conscious mind being female in the subconscious, then how can you not say that there isn't a mother goddess? How can there just be a father god all alone when father cannot even give birth to life? He can help create life, but he cannot manifest life through a womb. So when our patriarch.
So basically what she's saying is like, and this is actually a common complaint that you'll hear among, where it's just like women feeling like Abrahamic faiths in general are patriarchal, because all you hear is Father God, you don't hear Mother God, things like that. So I understand. I don't want to go too much deeper in a tangent, but it's like, yes, the Western Christianity is, there has been representation. You don't hear things like talked about like Mother God, but if you look in scriptures, there are definite scriptures within the Bible, even in the Alexander Canyon, that speak to God having attributes that are both masculine and feminine. Obviously, if you look even at Genesis, it says man and a woman were created in God's image. So it's like, that's not surprising. But she says there's some women who feel like they don't mess with it because they hear the term Father God. And y'all know, if women out here got issues with their father, or they don't like men in general, or whatever, the last thing they want to say is Father God. That don't resonate with them. So let's continue.
Overthrew matriarchy, because they wanted their acknowledgement too, because they're just as divine. They put everything in an imbalance and turn the world into chaos. And when I say patriarchs, I'm not talking about Caucasian men. Caucasian.
Well, let me go back, y'all. Let me go. So basically, let me go back here. Sorry. Okay.
All alone, when father cannot even give birth to life. He can help create life, but he cannot manifest life through a womb. So when our patriarchs overthrew matriarchy, because they wanted their acknowledgement too, because they're just as divine, they put everything in an imbalance and turned the world into chaos. So when I say patriarchs, I'm not talking about Caucasian men. Caucasians weren't even on the scene. These were so-called Black melanated patriarchs. These are our ancestors, our male ancestors, and not all of them, but it was Black men, melanated men, ancient ancestors that overthrew matriarchy, desecrated the temples, desecrated, raped the priestesses, pillaged, took all of the ancient text that the priestesses created, and then turned it around and said they created it. So you got texts such as Talmud, the Babylonian text, and all the different things like that ended up becoming the Bible later on, and I'll explain that too.
So I don't know if y'all catch that. So what she said was that originally the early society was a matriarchy, but then men got jealous, and then they overthrew the women, and they raped and they pillaged them, and they did all these horrible things to them, and they overthrew the matriarchy for a patriarchy. This is according to her. I don't know if y'all caught that. Oh, you all want me to do y'all want me to slow it down a bit? Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Let me see if it's hard for you guys to catch. Okay, I can slow that down, maybe 1.25. Okay, so basically, I don't know if you guys heard that. I can go back a little bit. Basically, what she's saying is that, yeah, it was a, uh, it was a patriarchy. No, it was a matriarchy, and men got jealous and then overthrew it. But let me continue, because, like I said, this is important, because again, she's a quote unquote African spiritualist, and is coming to these conclusions, and this is what women are turning to now. I highly doubt that traditional African women were thinking like this. But before I go into that, let me just play.
I'll move the Babylonian text and all the different things like that ended up becoming the Bible later on, and I'll explain that too. I digress. Let me make sure I'm going good on my notes here. So all of this time, our suffering in this part of the world, you're thinking it's a race war, when really it was a gender war all along, a gender war that goes all the way back. Matriarchy versus patriarchy, our feminine ancestors versus our masculine ancestors, Iya versus Baba, mother versus father, and this goes way back. If you want to look at the state of so-called Black America, why do Black women and Black men, why do they have so many problems with one another? Why do they not respect one another? Why is there a push-pull? Why is there resentment on both sides? That's because it's been going back since thousands and thousands and thousands of years. This is an old war. This is not a new war. They'll say that the Black man is the most disloyal man to his woman on the planet, especially in this part of the diaspora. And I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about as a whole. So this is because it's been a war that has gone all the way back, before the so-called Caucasian man was even in existence on the planet. So let's see. Okay, good. Okay, I'm finished with this note right here. So in the beginning was the Great Mother. I want you to look at this picture right here. This is
So y'all heard. So in the beginning was the Great Mother. And so what we discovered so far based upon this spiritual breakdown. Now, I have no idea where this is coming from. I don't know if there was a text. I kind of asked around and was like, hey, is there like some tale or fable out there that I'm aware of some great matriarch being overthrown by Black men, and Black men pillaging and beating and raping their women for the patriarchy? Like, I don't know of this. So I have no idea where this is coming from. Now, to be fair, I don't pretend to be an expert in African spirituality, but from different people that I know who were like deeply connected to African culture, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm not totally sure where this is coming from, but I want you to notice the framing on this, because I'm like, here we're hearing really, 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 really common stereotypes about Black men, right? Black men are, they're rapists. They're jealous of Black women. They beat us. They disrespect us. They dishonor us. She literally just said, y'all know that Black men are the least faithful in the diaspora, all over here, all over there. Just all common traits that are already believed to be about Black men. So it's interesting how now this has become some spiritual, esoteric thing that's been happening for like supposedly thousands of years. I'm like, based upon what evidence? Now, what we do know historically is that matrilineality was a thing in Africa. There are definitely African societies where there is a matrilineal societies were matrilineal. And then, when different wars, different things broke out, then it became more patrilineal, became more of a patriarchy, essentially as a way to try for some of these civilizations to survive. But there was never really a time, even if you understand like traditional history, where it was like women were just totally, completely in control without the influence of men, or vice versa. It's like, no, even in those societies where it was matrilineal, there's a reason for that. Men very much had power and had control, and so did women. It was very much a symbiotic relationship. But I think that would be a mischaracterization, at least from how I understand history, to say that women just were having all this power and men were just kind of serving them, and then they got butt hurt and then decided to like overtake them. Like I don't know any history that speaks to that fact, but y'all let me know if I'm wrong. Shout out to you, Gracious gracious greatness for the 179 on the super sticker. I appreciate you. Shout out to you, Luke AC20 with the 3 on the super sticker. Guys, again, if you're on here, hit that like button, show support to the show. Also, I did see, I think, a 5 come through with Mr. Z Black in effect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. So we are talking about why Black men are to blame now for slavery based upon this breakdown. But let me continue. The reason I wanted to talk about this section of it is, again, this video was shared by Summer Walker, who has a huge influence. This particular video has almost 270,000 views or something like that, or over 200,000 views. And Black women are turning to tarot cards. I've already noticed within some of these different tarot card communities a unwillingness to want to connect or be accountable or be in connection not only with church but with authority and male authority. So you already have that in the background, and then now you have women turning to spirituality or turning to more occult or alternative practices, and some of them are starting to hear messages such as this, which, in my humble opinion, promote misandry, like specifically and especially towards Black men. And I wanted to break this down because this video was shared from Summer Walker, who has a ton of influence. This video has been watched many, many different times, and it's like these ideas are coming from somewhere. So let's continue, because I think this is we want to break this down. Let's see. Okay.
This Islamic people, Islamic men, which is a patriarchal tradition or religion. Look how they're praying. Look how they're bowing. What do you see special about what they're doing? Can you see that? Why do they pray like that?
Okay, let me
what are they doing? It's a fetus in the womb. They are in the fetal position. What are they doing that they don't know that they're doing? They are signaling to the great mother, the mother goddess, comfort me, because a baby is comfortable in the womb. Comfort me and develop me. Help me to grow and elevate. So when you bow in the fetal position, if you're in pain, you ever seen somebody rock when they're in pain or they're holding themselves? That's because they're going back to that womb feeling comfort. They're rocking, just like when you're in a hammock. So that's what this means. When someone is folded over like this, praying, they're in the fetal position, honoring great mother when they think that they're honoring the great father.
So what she's saying is that when people bow down and pray, she used a picture of men, Muslim men who were down and praying. She was saying that it looks like they're in the fetal position, and that is a spiritual representation of them praying to Godmother, or no, the great Queen Godmother or something. That's basically what she's saying. It's like their fetal position is reflective of a baby's fetus. So that's why this mother is... I'm trying to understand it. I'm actually trying to understand it. But she just used that example. Let's continue. I want to try to get to some of the core stuff.
I want to keep my...
Okay, let me finish over here.
Asking mother to comfort you. That is
okay, whatever.
Olodumare, owner of Odu. Who is the owner of Odu? Who is the owner of the womb? We women. We have a womb. And then you look at the term El Shaddai, the big-breasted one, the comforting one. Does father have big breasts? Does he comfort with his big breasts? Or does it sound like a nurturing mother that is giving breast milk? So we have El Shaddai, we have Olodumare, and this is kind of giving you symbology of, the feminine aspect of creator, which has been discredited throughout the ages, that has caused the world to go in a disarray.
Now, that is maybe one point that I agree with, where it's just like, yeah, the feminine aspects of God Almighty have essentially, they have been maybe downplayed, underlooked. Like, I can understand that, because it's like, we know men and women came from God. So I think we understand that now. Does that mean I need to now go make an altar, some great queen mini-breasted one, and blame Black? I don't know if I need to do all that. But I'm like, yeah, you can say, obviously, there are feminine and masculine attributes to the creator, because the creator is neither male or female. It is the creator. We can't really articulate the greatness and how expansive, like, no one can articulate. We try to in our human way, but it's never going to be in its fullness because we have a limited understanding. So I understand like an aspect of that, but I'm like, then to me it can kind of get kind of weird personally. But let me see.
I want to say something. I want to show you this picture. I know I'm all over the place with this
Yeah,
stuff.
she's all over the place.
Because I'm very passionate about this, and Spirit has been tapping me on my shoulder to do this video. I've been working on this for like 5 days.
Okay, I'll fast
10%,
forward that one.
right? The conscious mind. Just because it's only 10% of the diamond does not make it less valuable, does not make it less divine. As above, so below. If you are living within the past thousands of years, I don't think anyone here, whether you have met your father or not, I don't think any of us would be here if our mother did not get with our father to co-create us.
Okay, let me fast forward this part. I'm trying to get to this because she kind of does go on a few tangents. I'm trying to get to the core. Basically, what she's doing is she showed a picture of a diamond, and she's again reinforcing the 10%, 90%. For those of you guys who are new here, what she is doing is saying that, okay, 90% of the mind is feminine, 10% of the mind is masculine. 90% is feminine, 10% is masculine. So that's kind of what she's saying. Let's continue.
Which is of a priest of Orumila. He will say Aboru Oboye, Aboshishe, or either in the Lukumi tradition, Iboru, Iboya, Iboshishe. Who is Aboru? Who is Aboye? And who is Aboshishe? Who is Iboru? Who is Iboya? Who is Iboshishe? These are the three females that helped Orumila when he fell in a hole. He saved them. So when you bow to a priest of Ifa, you're giving honor to the women that saved him. To the Iami, excuse me.
Summer Sparkers.
Africa was once a matriarchy, and the entire planet, the Aboriginal people of the world, had matriarchy going on all over the world. But once again, our ancient African fathers, our ancient Aboriginal fathers wanted to usurp the authority because he's like, wait a minute, my 10% of the diamond is just as important. This is what he's saying. So instead of going about it in an elevated, mature way, he was violent with it. He disrespected us. He overthrew us. The sibyls, the prophetesses. What is a sibyl? A sibyl is a female prophetess because the first prophets on this planet were women. The first oracles on this planet were women. The first priests and high priests on this planet were females.
So I don't know if y'all heard that, but basically what she said was, the ancient fathers, they weren't happy with being the 10%. They weren't happy with their masculine 10% role. They felt undervalued. And so they overthrew, she said us, as in Black women. She said the masculine, they overthrew us Black women. They removed the prophetesses. They removed the voice of the Queen Mother. They removed, and so again, she's kind of painting this historical narrative as to a disorder that happened when men stepped out of their rightful place and removed women from the rightful place as leaders, and how that created disarray. Let me continue.
So he went against Big Mama because he wanted his diamond to shine just as much.
He went against Big Mama.
Overthrew things. And it's how he did it that was offensive to Great Mother rather than, him wanting to get his shine as well. So this is where the problem lies. A great betrayal. And not only did he want to get the shine, what he did was everything that the prophetesses and the oracles created, he destroyed everything, hid it out of plain sight, dismantled her cults and her priestesshoods, put the prophetesses in slavery, sold them into prostitution, sold them to be concubines, and then went and took all of what they wrote and what they said and said, I did this. It's kind of like if you write a song and it doesn't have a copyright, and somebody steals your stuff, hides the fact that you did it, put you in the basement somewhere, destroy your stuff, destroy your temples, and then say that they're the one that wrote the song. So this is what happened, and this is what the great offense was. So if you look at the Bible, Biblios, Sybil,
I don't know
Bible,
what she's trying to make. I don't get it.
If you look at this, you say, oh, that's a white man's book, and da 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 da. And then the Hebrews will say, no, it's the Black patriarch's book. A lot of the things in the Bible that you see that go back, to ancient Babylonian texts and ancient Kemet and things like that, those were written by women, by the sibyls and the prophetesses when they uttered the oral.
Okay, so she's been going on a tangent.
She's been disrespected. She's been overlooked. Her wrath is amazing. Let me see if I can find some of it.
So basically, she kind of, she's going on this tangent, and there's this continual theme coming up that Black women were disrespected by their men in ancient times. In ancient times, Black men went and they not only did they become violent against the prophetesses and the leaders and the spiritual priestess of that time. Not only did they become violent, they sold them into slavery, and they raped them, and they beat them, and they sold their daughters into prostitution, and they did all these things towards the Black women, towards their leaders, mothers, daughters, whatever. And the queen mother, the great queen mother is what she calls her, I guess, became upset. So again, she's breaking down this narrative. I have no idea where this is coming from. I don't know of any historical narrative in any country, anywhere in Africa, where men just stood up one day and decided to just like overtake their women and then sold them into slavery. Like I know nothing. I know of no historical fact that can point to that. If any of you guys do, please let me know. But again, this is what she's breaking down. I know this may seem really outlandish, but we're talking about this because, again, early on, we started this discussion about how Black women are turning to alternative spirituality, tarot cards, things of that nature. This particular woman, she has I think she has like maybe a little below 90,000 followers, but she has influence. She calls herself an African spiritualist. And this is what women say that they are turning. This is what Black women are turning to, or Black women more and more. We're seeing it on TikTok, social media, Instagram. It's the trendy thing to do. And when you come into this space, what you hear, unfortunately, sometimes is ideas like this. This video was shared by Summer Walker. So I know it's kind of long and all over the place, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a sense of insight into what's happening, because this is, to me, like I said, where it starts to become a problem. Where if you create any spiritual practice that now gives you a reason to be misandrist and essentially promote feminist talking points in some ways, white supremacist talking points, it's like, how is that spiritual? To me, this is where I think it can become really problematic. And we're already seeing in no uncertain terms, like different tarot card leaders, people going out and trying to do readings on Black men and trying to do spiritual rituals about the destiny of Black men, all this weird stuff. And you can wonder where it's coming from. But then you come across videos like this that give women a spiritual justification to blame Black men and be misandrous. And to me, it's literal insanity. So this is why we're talking about it. I know it's a bit all over the place, but bear with me. Also, guys, be sure to hit that like button. If you like what I'm about, if you like what we're doing here, show support to the show. It's not always fun being the one out here to kind of call BFF, for lack of a better term. But if you like what we're doing, if you want to see more of this, and if you want to see more constructive conversations, support your favorite content creators. I do my best to try to bring you content that's thought-provoking, entertaining, all that stuff, but I depend upon you guys to keep this going. So if you haven't already, hit the Cash App, Super Chat, Venmo, Shay Sade. Also, I'll be sure to acknowledge Super Chats because this is a group effort. So show some support, and let me continue with this one.
No, I'm not going to read all of it. These were the Sibyl's prophecies, not some Moses, or, with all due respect. It was the Sibyl's that prophesied this, because Great Mother was angry because of what the patriarchs did to us, to the women, to the priestesses and the oracles. And what you see now, when you see these women diviners popping up everywhere, they want to read tarot, they want to do this and that. We are the descendants of those Sibyl's, those prophetesses. So we are the descendants and the reincarnation of those oracles in this day and time. But I digress.
So she said, so the patriarchs that are mentioned in the Bible, the patriarchs didn't do it. It wasn't the patriarchs. It was the Sibyl's, the women. Now, again, I don't understand. Like, whatever. Let me not try to figure that out. I'm just telling y'all what you said. Let me continue.
I'm just going to give you some, if you haven't heard the Hebrew Israelites explain this. Let's see.
Okay, so now she mentioned the Hebrew Israelites. Let's see.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up, and you are always at least 3 to 6 steps behind them. Why is that? Why is that? Why would all of this cruelty go on with our people? Oh, white people and this and that, this and that. I'm not saying that they haven't been evil, that they haven't done evil things, but she has used them as her whip to punish us, because everything that the Caucasians have done in this society is what the father patriarchs did to the mother. So let me tell you, father stole from mother, and then the white man stole from father. So what goes around comes around. In the Odu Osameji, Osa speaks of betrayal in Yoruba Odu, in the Dilagun and Ifa. Osameji, Iyami, the mother's, Iyami means my mother, the great mother, she anointed the Caucasians to overthrow the black patriarchs and to do to Black father and the people what he did to us, to the feminine energy. And this is what has happened.
Y'all, okay, so did y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that? So did y'all catch that? So let me know if you guys heard clearly what was said. But basically what she said was, listen, yeah, you know, white supremacy has been a problem, but really the real issue is that the Queen Mother has used white supremacy to discipline and to punish Black men, really the Black community, but especially Black men, for their wrongdoings towards their women. She went on to say that everything that white people did to Black people, Black men initially did to Black women. This is what is being said in this video. I thought it was literally crazy because I'm like, please show me an historical account that could point to this. But this is apparently, again, why this has happened. Again, Black men did this first to Black women, and then now the Queen Mother was mad, and so the Queen Mother sent white people to now go do this to Black people as a way to punish the Black men. Again, blame Black men, and here's a spiritual reason to do so. You said this is that divine mother goddess stuff. Yeah, I'm like, I mean, it's like if you ever wanted to believe it, if you ever wanted to believe that this was valid, or that there was any validity to it, like this to me is a horrible way to try. This is a horrible way to try to get Black men to respect and honor their men, or to respect and honor them, by saying that the reason that white supremacy is happening is because of them. Like they're the reason for white supremacy, and they're to blame for all of it because that they were jealous and they just need to put Black women back on a pedestal. And then all will be well. I don't know if that's really going to convince the masses of Black men to see these lovely ladies as goddesses. Let me continue. You said white supremacy. That's what I'm saying. You know what's so crazy to me? This is supposed to be some deep spiritual new, I guess this is supposed to be like a new lens on these problems. And I'm just like, is it me or is it just literally just feminism wrapped in tarot cards? Like, isn't this just because these ideas have been floating around forever? I think now it's just kind of wrapped in a new spiritually language, but I'm like, it's essentially just blame Black men. I don't know if that's anything new. Okay, shout out to Fawcett Media with the 5. I see, and to think we get videos restricted and held back for basic-ish, but this roundabout gets promoted. Right. Crazy. Well, if Big Mom is so big and that big, then how she get knocked off her square? Listen, I'm just here to report information. I'm not trying to make sense of what's going on. It says there has never been a successful matriarchy in world history. SMDH. Thank you guys. Let me try to get through this, y'all, because believe it or not, we're not even done. But I do want you guys, I just wanted to make sure you guys kind of heard where she was like, she started to really break down what's going on. Okay, let's see if she just continues with this one.
Black father stole and desecrated the temples and plagiarized and said he did this. And in turn, he erected his empires and Thebes, Waset, and
so Black father stole
all over these great empires. And soon, as time went on, their descendants, the Moors, those patriarchs of the time, they went into Europe, taught the Caucasian man their mysteries and their secrets. And in the Caucasian, their children betrayed the fathers, overthrew them, and then pretty soon we were all in shackles because everybody had to suffer. Because what father did,
y'all,
mother, he did to himself, because he is only 10%. So
father's only 10%.
Father, she has betrayed 10% of herself. So if you want to say I hate men, you're saying you hate 10% of yourself. You cannot say you love yourself and you hate 10% of yourself. If you are misogynist and you do not love women, you do not like women, you do not respect women, from whence you came, you are saying you hate 90% of yourself. So when the patriarchs destroyed the matriarchy, instead of asking, hey, can we coexist? This is what happened. He overthrew 90% of himself. And not only did it affect the males, it affected us as well. We all went into slavery and we all went into suffering, and we are all going through this. And it is going on perpetually. But keep in mind, the curse was not necessarily meant to last forever, because 400 to 1,000 years is only a blip on the radar screen in time, in existence. The key is coming back and getting divine balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Because just because she is the bigger 90% does not make her better. Because a lot of people say she's a woman all by herself, we don't need men, but they're here. I have a son. Many of you have sons. So what about your sons? They supposed to act like women now? No, they have to operate in their masculine energy. It's not about them bowing and becoming feminine. No, we don't need any more of that. They need to be strong in their masculine. And they need to respect. They need to respect us in our feminine. So this is the problem, because a lot of people nowadays, they feel like they'll look at the masculine part, because patriarchy is still going on, and they'll be like, I want to be equal to this. How can you be equal to this when you're this? If you're operating in 100% of this, you don't have to use brute force, because this is the great influencer. 90% of the subconscious. As a woman, when we know who we are, there's no need for feminism. No disrespect to anybody that does it. I'm not giving my opinion on it one way or the other, but it's just not necessary.
So this isn't feminism?
You know who you are. Why would you want to squeeze your big old self into 10%? Right? You operate in this, and they operate in what they are, and there's harmony in the universe and the cosmos. I'm still going. So yeah, the patriarchs, they overthrew everything. They stole our prayer positions, honey. Oh yes, they did. Oh yes.
You're saying, how did the 10% overthrow the 90%?
And then they turned around and told everybody.
I don't know.
From the rib of a man. Adam and Eve. Eve. Good evening. Nighttime. Eve. Evil. What am I saying? Everything that the woman was turned into evil. Jezebel. Sybil. Zabel. Sybil. Jezebel. Sybil's. Witches, which means wise woman. Harlot. So all of those words came from patriarchy, because they were seething over the fact that mother had all of this pull in this world, and they overthrew her. So you know how Caucasians will say UNIGD, you know the words that they call. That was their way of, that was patriarchs, the black patriarchs' way of demonizing the woman. Oh, you're Jezebel, and thou shalt not read divination and look at signs and wonders. Because what they're saying is, I know I keep going back and forth. They're saying, thou shalt disregard your subconscious mind. Thou shalt ignore your intuition, because the conscious mind is our critical thinking, logical thinking, willpower, etc., our habits. This is what we express, our conversations. Whereas our subconscious mind are our beliefs, creativity. He has on. He knows. He knows. They know. Before they were Caucasian. What does this have to do with West Africa? Did we come from West Africa? You're talking to that, because I want to go more into the he has on. He knows.
Right, crap. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get to the next part.
If you read Mama Zoe's book about the Sibyls, it will go into full account. And I'm going to have my empirical evidence and further research in the description box, because I'm not going to get too deep off into that, because I want to go more into the right brain. But this is what occurred. It goes deeper than that. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What happened in... Because the Sibyls, they were in Libya. They fled to Greece. And those were Black Grecian people at the time. Black Romans, before they were Caucasian. What does this have to do with West Africa? Did we come from West Africa?
I just, I'll say this. I get confused how Black people fleeing, Black women fleeing is because of Black men persecuting them. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm missing an historical event or something that I just totally aware of. If so, please let me know. But I'm like, the time period she's referring to, I thought, people were fleeing and running, and wars were happening because of imperialism. So this is what I don't understand about this whole thing.
The Yoruba, what does this have to do with any of that?
Okay, but
I'm going to explain this to you. This is Africa, right? And this is the so-called Middle East. In ancient times, there was no such thing as the Middle East. That was when Europeans came on the scene. European patriarchs, because the Black patriarchs taught the white man how to be a patriarch, or to be a chauvinist in a sense. And not saying all patriarchs are chauvinists, but this is what happened. They call this the Middle East, when really the Middle East is nothing but East Africa. It's an extension of East Africa.
Fair.
So this is where all of your ancient texts are coming from Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, anyway. So anyway, the Sibyls were centrally located. This was their Mecca, was in Libya. And they call it North Africa. Nowadays, no, all of that was so-called Black melanated Africa. Everybody was melanated beings in that part of the world at that time. You have Egypt next door. So anyway, after they were persecuted by the patriarchs, they fled to different islands. The islands of Patmos, Ionia. Ionia means yoni. And that's where you look in Greek mythology, and they have like the Oracle of Delphi. Delphi means dolphin. Dolphin is of the sea. Sea is of Yemoja, Mamiwata, etc., etc. And they carried their mysteries over there. So when you ever hear the oracles of Delphi and things like that in Greek mythology, if you've seen Hercules and things, those are the Sibyls. Those are the ancient Black Sibyls that they are talking about. They're not talking about some Caucasian Greek women. These were the prophetesses from Africa that fled over there because they were being persecuted. But
so I guess she's linking like ancient Greek mythology and stuff to even more previous ancient African, I think, mythology, or no, history. Yeah, I think she's trying to link history to some mythology. Not to say that there isn't a crossover, but I'm having a hard time tracing any of the historical evidence. Now, I don't pretend to be a expert on this. I'm certainly not. But to me, anytime there is an assertion made historically about why essentially you should demonize an entire people group, especially when that people group is your people group, I always question that historical breakdown. I'm always going to do that. Like,
anyway, as time passed, and Great Mother she rendered a curse upon the patriarchy.
Okay, some more curses.
The white man got up.
More curses on Black folks.
Ended up overthrowing the African patriarchy, and he came in
She's
Egypt.
Just mixing doctrines.
He stole father's identity, just like father stole mother's identity. And from this persecution, Roman persecution, they fled from Egypt because the Romans chased them all the way down, and they went deep back into Sudan. Right?
Okay, let me just
Michael. Right? And they know this because even the Orishas honor Olodumare because we're all a piece of that. So yes, they're supposed to be revered and things like that, but they cannot help us with a curse because it's just like if your mother and father put you on punishment, your big brother and big sister cannot take you off of punishment. All they can do is comfort you, maybe give you some water, make it easy, but they cannot nullify the punishment. That is why it's like, why did they help us? Because they couldn't. It came from higher up, and it affected everything and everyone in the cosmos. But I digress. Anyway, so throughout a 1,400-year time period, they call it Israel, Egypt, all of this. They went through Sudan, ended up in West Africa, and then they were taken over through the slave trade. So people are like, why do so-called African Americans or Black people in the diaspora, Caribbean, why do they care so much about Egypt? That's because everything went from east to west. And if you look at, if you listen to Yoruba scholars, they'll say life started in Ile Ife in Nigeria, but really they say that Ile Ife was actually in the east. And they talk about like when Babalawo was casting fire,
I don't know if you guys are catching any of this.
And it looks like desert sand. And they'll do markings on the opon tray. And really this comes from the east because they would draw lines in the sand to divine. Because they even say they're angry about what happened to her prophetesses and oracles. And let's see, I wanted to show you something else. I'll come back to that. Let's see. Give me a second. Give me a second. Yeah, also I wanted to talk about, if you've ever seen Orishas or Loa, sometimes they'll come down weeping, especially the female, because the divine feminine is still in travail. She's still suffering, as above, so below. So when you see women, all those angry, bitter Black women, because Great Mother's angry and bitter by what happened because the wrong has not been righted. She has been kept silent for so long. There's been so many injustices that have occurred with not only so-called melanated women, but women across the globe. And she's suffering because of that. And if Black women, or so-called melanated women, are feeling abandoned and alone, like they have to do it all by themselves, like she has no support, like she does not have her divine masculine counterpart, that is because Great Mother is feeling like that. She feels abandoned and betrayed by her masculine counterpart, as he once felt betrayed by her because it was feeling like she was getting all of the attention. So this is the great ancient war, as above, so below in the cosmos. A lot of the
so I don't know if y'all caught that. I mean, and I don't know if you caught that, but now we have a esoteric spiritual reason as to why Black women are perceived as upset and bitter. In her own words, Black women are oftentimes perceived as angry and upset and bitter because actually the great Queen Mother is ancient and is bitter and upset and has been so since she was removed from her throne. So again, it shouldn't be anything to judge. It shouldn't be anything to question. It is the response of the divine feminine to the masculine that did overthrow her. So there you go. Shout out to you. I did see a 10 come through, guys. We're getting through this. I'm almost done. I see. You should interview Leonard Elamera. He practiced Haitian voodoo, and I'm sure he can tell you about all the chicks who come to him to cast spells on some men there are involved with. Okay, I'll check him out. Yeah, I'll check him out. You said I'm listening. I am not immersed in her ideas, though. Yeah. Okay. So we're almost towards the end, guys. If you're here again, hit that like button, show support to the show. I know this is kind of a lot, and I know it's kind of she's kind of all over the place. I mean, I'm trying to skip to good points, but Again, I thought this was important to review because whether or not you agree or think it's babbling or make sense of it or not, this is what some women, and Black women in particular, are turning to. And I don't want to mischaracterize and say that every person who's into tarot cards or every person who is turning to the occult is a misandrist. I don't know about it enough to know. But, from the different months that I've kind of been observing and watching different things, I have seen a lot of misandry. I have seen, to me, what this appears to be feminist talking points or white misandrist talking points cloaked in African spirituality, cloaked in new spirituality, cloaked in liberal whatever. And so I thought it was important to talk about this because this is what some women are doing, whether or not you agree with it, like it or not. This is what they're doing. This is what they're turning to. And it's important to be aware so that you can plan accordingly and maybe as a way to try to challenge, because I think some of these ideas are quite dangerous if they are not challenged for what they are. And like I said, all of for me up to this point, everything that I've heard, all of the breakdown that she's given as to why Black men essentially and their jealousness of the Black women, why that is the underlying reason for the current state of the Black community. I don't know of any historical events that really speak of a great overthrowing or even any popular narratives or tales or mythologies. Like I said, if you guys know of anything, let me know. But I'm not familiar of anything that would speak to a time and period where Black men went and just overthrew Black women and sold them into slavery and beat them and did all these things. So it's like to kind of, to state these things as if they are historical realities and use that as a reason to why Black people are in the state that they are today, and then to minimize the different atrocities that were actually committed by Europeans and European nations for profit. Again, that's very dangerous because this now can give reason a spiritual tool and a spiritual justification to blame Black men and to continue and erode towards misandry. That's not helping anybody. So again, guys, if you like what we're doing here, hit the like button, share it to somebody, show support to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo Sade. Yeah, and support the super chat. As always, I'll be sure to acknowledge those super chats, and we're almost done here.
I've already pretty much discussed, but I have still some good stuff to talk about, but we're progressing forward. Before there was Ifa, there was the Iami Oshorunga oracles. If you go to Nigeria or you try to look up information on the Iami Oshorunga, because Iami means my mother, you will see that there is no cult for Iami. There is like no practices that you can do. There are only certain things that you know. And why is that? That's because patriarchy wiped her mystery systems clean. Didn't hardly leave anything. All we know now is what they like to be appeased. And they have Aje Funfun, Aje Pupa, and Aje Dudu, and Iami Akoko, which is the morning dew. And we know certain things, but we don't know all things about how to propitiate them. And there is a pataki that speaks of Oshun, the Orisha Oshun of sweet waters, a female beautiful Orisha of happiness. She was the first female Irumole or angelic being that came to earth. And the male Irumole, they disregarded her, like, oh, she doesn't matter, she's not important. So she got offended and she felt slighted, so she dried up the land. And then they had to end up calling on her to come back and replenish the land because she felt disrespected. So when we went into slavery, you know that Oshun is sweet water. When we went into slavery, there was no sweetness in that. There was suffering because Oshun is ease, she's ecstasy, relaxation, and all of the good sweet things in life. She could not come with us. And there's a Cuban part of this tale that speaks of Oshun could not make it to the new world because she's sweet water, because it's going to turn into salt water. So her sister Yemaya had to carry her in the rain over to Cuba and other parts of the world so that Oshun could come over here and accompany the so-called slaves and the Aboriginal people, because we were already here as well. So I'm not discrediting that we were here in the caves and Grand Canyons where the matriarchs were there. But anyway, when there was sweetness in slavery, it had to be after suffering. And if you notice now, when we are going through things in this life, it's like there are a lot of tears before sweetness. That is because Yemoja comes before Oshun. Yemoja carries the sweetness of Oshun in her rain. And when you think of rain, you think of tears. And this is what has happened. So once again, I go back to the reason why the Orishas did not save us. In Osameji, the Iami empowered the Caucasian man to overpower the Black patriarchs and overthrow the Black patriarchy and make the father of the earth the joke of the earth, or the footstool of the earth. There's also, and I don't know the Odu connected to this, it is said that Obatala, the father Orisha, the paternal Orisha, he also has a feminine aspect. He came down and he disguised himself as a human being, and he went into the African kingdoms, and he warned the kings and the priests, the patriarchy was going on. You all need to.
So I don't know if I heard that, but she reinforced again, like, why I guess the Orishas couldn't save why black folks couldn't be saved from slavery is because the highest power, right, used white people as a way to punish black men for them overstepping and usurping the authority of the black women. Again, she reiterated that, and she's like, you can't blame you. I guess your Orishas or spirit guides, they didn't have the power because the power came from high. This punishment, the the spiritual, all of the different atrocities that have happened to the black community are actually a direct result of the most Queen Mother High, and how she's been basically even trying to blame black men she's been trying to punish black men for the wrongs that they committed against their the women.
Make sacrifice. You all need to make it bold, because there's a great evil coming across the waters, talking about the Europeans, and they're coming to take you all and put you all in the shackles. And the so-called, you know how brothers are, can't tell them nothing. So they recognize Obatala. He came out of disguise. They honored, they adobelate to him, they bowed to him, and he's like, okay, we're gonna make sacrifice, because they had a big festival going on. And so the next day they forgot. So you can't tell them anything. People were trying to warn them, you need to do this sacrifice, you need to do this sacrifice. They didn't do it. So Caucasian man made Ebo to Great Mother, or made sacrifice to Great Mother so that he can rule. And the black patriarchs in their arrogance, we're the kings, you can't tell us nothing. They didn't do it. So in shackles, everyone went.
Okay, so she said white men made sacrifice to the great Queen Mother, and the great Queen Mother heard the white men, and then black men were arrogant and they didn't want to listen. So then the Queen Mother punished the black men by the white men who decided to listen.
And by the time they wanted to come back and do sacrifice, it was too already on our way over here. It could be reversed. So what goes around comes around. What father did to mother, the Caucasian man did to father, and has done to all of us, and has left the world upside down.
So again, what black man did to black woman, now the white man did to black people. I want y'all to hear that. This is the climax, right? What black men originally did to black women, now white men have done to black people. So what's the foundation, or what is the core of the trespass? It was black men and their actions.
Yes, I've spoken to this already.
I don't know what. Okay, let me go.
Restoring honor of the mother creatrix.
Okay, so now we're getting into the solution.
The masculine should not be honored.
This is how I think. This is how we.
We're at 52 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Solutions.
This is a solution, guys. This is how we bring balance, and this is how we bring unity and prosperity back to the collective of black folks across the diaspora. This is her solution to it.
Number one, restoration of honoring Mother Goddess or Mother Creatrix as much as Father God, the Creator. There has to be a restoration. I'm not saying that the masculine should not be honored in some sort of way, but Mother Goddess, you want to talk about honoring your ancestors? Your oldest ancestor is a woman. Even science proves that, Lucy Dignesh in Ethiopia, and going further than that, as above, so below. So lack of honoring the mother leaves the world in imbalance, because you are neglecting 90% of what you are. So that's solution number one. Restoring honor of the Mother Creatrix. Next, protection of women and children, especially women of color. Stop leaving us out. Stop making us be the mule of the world, the strong black woman that you can just endure and step on and abandon. Empower us. Protect us. You know what I'm saying? They say, well, you can protect yourself as a woman. A reason why there's a masculine counterpart. So that's the next thing. Honoring the mother creator, honoring the mother within yourself, honoring feminine energy, honoring your intuition, trusting your intuition, protecting children. Provision for the woman. Don't overwork her. Don't treat her less than you would treat some other woman that you consider superior. Because the problem is with the black fathers and the patriarchy.
Mr. C.
They have, to a degree, not all.
Oh, God.
They see this as being a threat to what they are. And so even though women of other groups are part of this as well, this great 90%, they are considered more of a diluted version than the so-called mean, angry, strong Black woman. So it's more digestible to them and will be the most hated.
Okay, so y'all get it. Basically, her solution is, look, y'all need to put Queen Mother, put Black women back in their rightful place as leaders. Start to protect them, start to honor them, start to respect them, start to, pay for them, start to treat them right. Don't walk off on them. Don't have affairs on them. Be the protector, provider, provision, all of that. And put the Queen Black Mother back in her place. That's essentially the solution. Now, I want you to read, or I want you to listen, and this is it. I think this is only 30 seconds or whatever, but I guess this is what she says the Spirit told her as far as final words, maybe an exhortation, maybe a warning to Black folks in the Black community. Okay, let's I know this has kind of been a little painful for some of you guys, but we're getting there. Okay.
This is a message from Spirit.
This is a message from Spirit to you guys.
The Black man, Black people will continue to be the most hated. The Black man will be the most hated, hunted man, joke of the earth. You took my mystery schools from my daughters. Now your boys have no rites of passage into manhood. Let me repeat that. Now your boys have no rites of passage into manhood. You have to wean your way through manhood, hoping you get it right, but often wanting to run away. Or sameji, to run away. Under the yoke of monogamy, you suffer. When many of you cannot even afford one wife and child. What does Oko mean? Oko means husband, farmer, tiller of the ground. When you go into the hole, OD or ED, of the woman, you are tilling the ground. You are planting your seeds, but your seed is poisonous. Are you watering what you have planted, or are you abusing your authority and your logic? As you have made me feel abandoned, rejected, put aside, prostituted for pirates, pillaged, sold at a discount, many of your daughters, mothers, and sisters will represent my pain and my anger. Single, husbandless, mothers betrayed by the father that wanted to do it all alone without his counterpart. Look how you destroyed my beautiful temples. Look how you paraphrase my words. Now your daughters won't feel as beautiful, appreciated, prioritized. They will feel overlooked in the background as just a mere mule or maid. Your daughters will work hard and fight to support their masculine, and he will betray her confidence as my sons have betrayed me. Credit for all you do will be given to a lesser that did nothing but benefit. You will work and create, and someone else will profit from your sweat. I was your first guard. You sucked at my breast. When you cried, I comforted you. I fed you. I taught you. Loved you. My daughters, with these men that have them used, they're laying next to a man every night and it's still not enough. A deep hole in their soul, an unquenchable thirst. She will often lay next to him and still feel lonely, misunderstood, disregarded. No matter how deep and true the husband's love is for her. Her daughters feel the hole with undeserving, dirty, pirate-like men that take her spirit. She looks for her father that abandoned her in all of the men or the males that she comes across. Because her patriarchs wanted to be first and only, not remembering we were better together. As above, so below. She is seen as hostile, angry, bitter, because she is a smaller aspect of me. I'm angry. You have polluted my waters. You have ravished my trees and poisoned my skies. When a child is born, it does not reach for money, a car, a horse, a carriage, a house. It reaches for the comfort of its mother. And the mother comforts better when the father is present, covering, protecting, and providing, not trying to be God alone. A king is only as great as his court. If you are proud to be a king of fools, that does not make you great. It is not your display of how destructive you can be that makes you mighty, but what you can build and sustain that shows your kingship. For a man, the best feeling in the world is to be inside a woman. The ecstasy he is feeling is what Father feels when he is united with me. I am the divine chaos, his divine order. When order betrays chaos, suffering is inevitable. Eat yami, feast on the innards and the organs of the offerings and animals. As you have deprived me of the innards of the animals and the organs, you all are losing your organs. Your organs are being taken. You're being starved. I'm eating you on the inside, your tissues, your organs. When you starve me, the world will feed on you, like a malnourished body feeding on itself. I will not be denied until you come back to me. You know how the song goes. That's what I'm going to do. Peace and bliss.
Okay, y'all. So that was her exhortation, I think. So again, like I said, I don't pretend to be an expert on ancient African practices or ancient African spirituality. So it's like I would hate to mischaracterize and say that is all that they do or believe, because I don't believe that's true. But what I really wanted to focus on is how Black women are turning to supposed African spirituality as a way to promote misandry. I listened to her whole thing multiple times, and I was listening and I'm just like, where is this coming from? Like, point to historical events at least. If you at least have different events, we can see that this happened, that there were men who literally went and overthrew, and Black men who overthrew Black women, which I don't know why they would do that, because the way that their society worked. But like, I just didn't know of any events that even remotely could validate any of her points being true. So I don't know where these ideas came from. If any of you guys know in the comment section, please let me know. Like I said, I asked people who are kind of more deeply connected to the African culture, and I'm like, are there like myths out there? Are there some ancient fables at least? Like, where is she pulling this from? And I didn't hear anything. So I don't know personally where this is coming from at all. But what I really wanted to focus on is, I think the way that women can use spirituality to whether it's to try to gain more control. Like the first video, it was just women, I think, trying to gain more control over aspects of their lives they felt they weren't happy with. They were disillusioned with the church for multiple reasons. And then I think now in this video, while I've never spoke with this woman, I listened to some of her previous videos, and I never got the sense that she like meant any harm or was trying to do evil per se. This particular video I thought was very alarming, and I wanted to address it because, again, it was shared by Summer Walker, someone who is very, she has a lot of influence. This video has a lot of views. I saw some pretty, I saw comments in there, people who were like really appreciating her breakdown. And this is what some women are turning to. And from how I perceive it, it just seems like another reason to blame Black men. The ideas, the undercurrent ideas are nothing new. It's things that we've heard through feminism, things we've heard through white supremacy, things that we've heard at the very least since the United States of America has been in existence. So it's like the core principles are not new. Now, the way it's been presented and packaged is in this new spiritual, pseudo-African spiritual or whatever it is, it's being presented in a new way. But I think the core ideas are not new. I think it's, like I said, I saw misandry, I saw feminism, and I thought that was dangerous. So again, I don't want to mischaracterize and say that this is everybody who was within African spirituality or everyone who's doing terror. I don't know enough about it to really know. But from what I heard and what I saw and perceived, there was a lot of dangerous rhetoric. And I think that's worth acknowledging because women need to be prepared. There are more women who are being disillusioned. There are more women who are looking for different ways to try to cope with their difficult lives. And I think it's about time we start to get to some of the core issues. I mentioned earlier in the podcast or earlier in this live, I was like, look, first off, if you are in the church, if you are wanting to be a Christ follower or Christian, don't do that because you want to get what you want. That's not what it's about. It's about, you surrender your life to God, and you every single day live for a cause greater than yourself. And yes, and there are beautiful things associated with that, right? It's like what you give up, you gain more than what you give up. But that may mean your life looks different than what you want. That may mean that you want fame and you want a particular amount of money, and you don't get that. You get other things, but internally you're more at peace. That's what being a Christ follower is about: surrendering your life and living the life that God chooses for you, not necessarily you trying to control results. But if you're disillusioned because you don't get those results, then you go to tarot cards to try to control your life or to try to control situations you have no control over. You might feel good in the interim and you might get some form of manifestations or whatever. But if you're not dealing with those deeper heart issues, you're still going to have problems. And then furthermore, if you are a misandrist or you don't like men or you don't like Black men, you have undealt with trauma, and you now turn into some tarot card, and then you mix it with Hinduism and then some, Yoruba philosophy and then some biblical stuff, and you create your own ideology, and you get initiated into Ifa, but then you're still reading Bible scriptures over here, and then you're still quoting Hindu. It's like, you make your own thing, you can do that. But if you haven't dealt with your own internal heart issues, it's not going to go away. It's not going to follow you. And in actuality, those undealt with heart challenges, issues can actually lead you to start to promote things that are dangerous. And I think this is what I heard in some of the different rhetoric: women turning to different alternative methods, but not necessarily being so quick to be self-reflective about what they did and about how they can change. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about, how can you point out a speck in somebody else's eye when you have a plank in your own eye? So even if it's true that, okay, well, Black men are responsible for that, let's just assume, what the lady said was true. It's like, even if that's true, okay, well, then how about Black women? Are we saying that Black men are to blame and they have a speck in their eye and we have a plank? That's according to the teachings of Jesus, right? And even if you're not, it's like, even if you don't ascribe to, I don't really know exactly what she ascribes to, but even if you're not going down that route, I think that's just a good idea, or a good ideology to have in general. It's like, before you go start trying to blame everybody else for why your life sucks, look in the mirror and say, okay, well, what plank do I have in my eye? or what have I done to myself first to make my life suck? And once you address what you have done or what you haven't done, then maybe now you can see more clearly to move forward and then address, She says, Sade, she's not mixing Yoruba tradition at all. Okay. Like I said, I don't want to mischaracterize, but I know she presents herself as African spiritualist and says, I think she said she was initiated in Ifa, unless I misunderstood that. Or unless I'm not saying that right. You guys correct me. I'm not the expert here. So anyways, guys, that is what I got. I know this was a long one. This is a long one, but I wanted to share it because, like I said, whether or not we like or agree, it's gaining influence, and I think it's good to be aware, and it's also aware to prepare and to actually warn different women and to warn them of what could happen when you do get involved in different things that can kind of not only lead you astray or kind of lead you to reasons to be even more upset and be more disillusioned with Black men or just men in particular. It can be dangerous if it doesn't allow you and give you the tools to be self-reflective and to say, where can I change? So that's what I got, you guys. Man, I wanted to open up the call lines, but it's getting kind of late. And you guys, you know what? It's been kind of slow on this Cash App lately. So I think if we're good, I see Black men are the guard dogs for this lady. Yeah. Well, that's another thing too, guys. What I noticed with this whole breakdown, because I listened to this like 2 or 3 times, this whole breakdown, the way men, how I understand her rightful position of men is that men are to protect and provide. So the men are the 10%, that's the masculine, women are the 90%. Women are the intuition, they are the wisdom, they are the source, they are the visionaries. Men are there to provide balance, structure, and provision. So men are very much seen as a utility based upon this breakdown, again, which I think is a bit problematic. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, it was a lot, guys. I have the link to some of the videos I reviewed. Also, I have a few other links if you guys want to check out just some breakdowns of women who turn or turning to alternative whatever, if you guys are interested. Okay, so it's a Sade. People say I initiated the E5, but she didn't say long enough to be sure. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you what was told. But you know, I could speak more matter of factly from it, just from a Christian perspective, just because I've been in the church for almost my entire life. But although I'm not as familiar with where she's coming from, I'm like, the ideas are certainly very familiar, and to me, they sound like misandry. That's why I was just like, I don't know if anybody who would ascribe to this would would agree that the whole reason Black folks are struggling is because black men are to blame, and Black men need to stop being jealous of Black women and start putting them in positions of control. When it's just like, isn't the Black community a matriarch at the very least in America? And don't you literally have Black women complaining that Black men haven't built because they're not operating in a patriarch? So then why are we saying that the patriarch needs to end? That's why it's like, when I look at it and break it down, it doesn't make any sense to me, honestly. But it's interesting, guys. This is a longer one, but I wanted to do it. Stay tuned, guys, for tomorrow for another live I'm going to be having with Obsidian and Pan-Africanism Strikes Back. That should be a fun one. Also, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button, show support to the show, and share it, you guys. Thank you also for becoming a new member. I did see you. Wait, where'd you go? Where'd you go? I wanted to highlight again you who became a new member. Darren, thank you so much for becoming a member. I appreciate you guys. If you want to become a member, you can for as little as $4.99. Please be sure to do so. Be sure to support your favorite content creators. Support those of us who are doing what you guys think is valuable. Those of us women out there too who are, willing to have some of these uncomfortable conversations. I know this isn't popular and not everyone wants to be in a place to open themselves up to criticism, but I think it was important that we address this. But you guys, if I'm wrong, if I miss anything, let me know. You can email me, Sade, send me resources, different things if you think that would help enlighten me as to some of the different topics I discussed here. And yeah, guys, show support to the show, and thank you for hanging out. And yeah, guys, we'll talk later, okay? Bye.